Hello. In this video, I will be working numbers 7 through 9 from lesson 4 about percentages, but I will be using the percent proportion for these. So in number 7 says Julie bought a leather sofa that was on sale for 35% off the original price of $800. How much did Julie pay for the sofa? So if I go over here, remember that the percent proportion looks like this. P over 100, where P is the percent, is equal to the amount over the base. So in this problem, we're identifying if she is getting a discount, it's 35% off the original price. So that is an example up here of the amount of discount is equal to the discount rate, which is 35%, times the original price. But in this case, we're going to use a percent proportion. So we want to figure out 35% of 800. So, of course, 35 is our percentage. So that's what always goes over 100. And it's equal to the amount over the base. Now remember, the amount is usually followed or preceded by the word is because it's what you're taking the percent, or what you get when you take the percent. And the base is usually followed or preceded by the word of because it's what you're taking the percentage of. So this is what you are taking the percentage of. And the amount is what you get when you take the percent. Sorry. So in this case, the base, that's what we're taking the percentage of. So it goes on the bottom. And X or a question mark will go on the top. This time I'll use X. In that example 8, I'll just use a question mark. So we talked about several ways to solve a proportion. One is to cross multiply and then divide by the number in front of X. So we have 100 times X, if we cross multiply here, is equal to 35 times 800. So 100x is equal to 2800. And then if we divide both sides by 100, we can cancel 2 zeros and we're left with x is equal 280. Now, that is not what Julie's going to pay for the sofa. It's $280 off the original price. So now we have to subtract that from 800. So 800 minus 280 will give us the sale price of the sofa, which is $520. So that's the answer to example 7. All right, example 8 is this. A little tricky because they give us one thing and ask us for another. But there are 36 carpenters in a crew. On a certain day, 29 were present. What percentage did not show up for work that day? So they're giving us the number that were present and asking us for the number that were absent. So you can see here that I already found that when I was using the percent equation. If 29 of the 36 were present, then 7 were absent. So I got that by subtracting. So if I go over here, I have 7 were absent. The total number in the crew were 36. Sorry. And we're asked to find this time what percent of 36 is 7. So what percent of the total number is 7? So if I use my percent proportion, then I don't know the percentage, so I'll put that over 100. Now it's very important that you get the right number on top and the right number on bottom. So remember, the amount is the part and the base is the whole. So 7, the part of the whole, were present. So now if I'm not going to use algebra with this one, I'm just going to use what we talked about in class. Remember, you multiply the numbers that are across from each other. So 7 times 100 is 700. Whoops, sorry. 7 times 100, divide by that number that's across from your unknown. So our unknown is going to be 7 times 100, or 700, divided by 36, and that's going to give us 19.4% if we round to the nearest tenth, which is what the directions told us to do. So notice that when I use the percent equation over here, I had to then multiply by 100 to get it to percentage form. But the nice thing about the percent proportion is because you put it over 100 to start with, you kind of multiply by 100 within that percent proportion. So that's already done for you, and your answer is the final answer. All right, moving on to number 9. A student answered 86 problems on a test correctly and received a grade of 96%. How many problems were on the test if all the problems were worth the same number of points? This time they want us to round to the nearest whole number. All right, I'm going to go over here for number 9. So for number 9, the student answered 86 out of the total. And that was 96% correct. So we'll put our 96 over 100. So 96 is our percentage. That goes over 100. And then remember, the part goes on top and the total, or the whole, goes on bottom. So that will be what we're trying to find. Notice also that when we were using the percent equation, sorry, I know I'm making you dizzy scrolling around, we also up front had to change this percent to a decimal by dividing by 100, which moved the decimal 2 places to the left. But again, with a percent proportion, because you are putting it over 100, you don't have to actually make this a decimal. So now I'm going to multiply the two numbers across from each other to solve this percent proportion. So my total is going to be 86 times 100, and then I'm going to divide that by what's across from our unknown, which is 96. 86 times 100 is 8600. If I divide that by 6, I get 89.5. And then if I round that to the nearest whole number, well, 9 is what the number I'm trying to decide whether to leave it a 9 or bump it up. And because that number to the right is 5 or bigger, I bump it up. So 89 becomes 90 total questions. Whoops, need to spell questions right there. And that's how you work 7, 8, and 9 using the percent proportion.